I just experienced a pretty strange phenomenon. I was feeling quite tired, and even though it seemed like I should do some work on AI alignment, it kind of felt like I was too exhausted to do it. After I waited a bit, I thought about some random things, and then I came to think about some very specific, concrete documents that I have written up on concrete topics. For example, I have an document that is talking about how it is bad that we are doing layered optimization when we're training the modern machine learning systems. And when I was thinking about this document and the topic that I'm discussing there, then it all seemed interesting again. Now, there might be some sort of effect. I noticed the thing that normally when you're awake, there is sort of every 2 hours potentially. I'm not quite sure what is the timing, but some set period of time of like 2 hours of that order, you are starting out this phase of 2 hours, starts out you being really awake, and then you get progressively more and more tired and exhausted. And at the end of the 2 hours, you will be very exhausted and at the low point where it will be hard to do anything really. Well, and the low point is actually determined based on how tired you're overall. So in the morning, normally when you're well rested, you wouldn't notice really the low point, and it becomes more and more pronounced the more tired you become. And it might be the case that just when I was thinking about AI alignment there, I was at a low point and therefore it seemed pretty difficult to do. But I'm not quite sure that it is that, and I feel like I have some evidence that there is this phenomenon that I was talking about before, that thinking about alignment abstractly makes me not want to think about it, and thinking about it in some concrete terms of what are some concrete things I could think about makes it engaging. And that evidence is that while I was thinking at some point that I wouldn't like the alignment didn't seem like an attractive thing to do at that in that moment, but some other things, writing some random blog posts that I want to write, seemed interesting. So it was definitely not that I was so exhausted that I couldn't do anything really. I feel like potentially the problem here is that I have throughout the past, because how I was talking about in my video titled "Don't Defer to People, Just Steal and Cash Out Their Models," that I managed to somehow make it such that I install some sort of aversion towards doing AI alignment. And that was because I was sort of too hard updating on some negative feedback that people were giving me. And this just made it such that my mind made it that each time I think about doing alignment, I would feel sort of bad and get pushed away from thinking about it. But it might just be that that kind of aversion towards doing alignment is very specific to sort of a particular way that you would think about AI alignment. It might not apply to any specific topic, but only about sort of the general idea of thinking about alignment. And I might still be falling prey to that sort of aversion, but only in the sense that I feel bad when thinking about alignment in some sort of way where I recognize, oh, I'm thinking about alignment. And if I'm going down into the weeds of any particular problem in alignment, then I wouldn't think about it in the terms that triggers this detection mechanism which activates the aversion. I think that might be what is happening here. Now, this raises the question if maybe it's not possible to pull out an explicit strategy from this. If each time I notice that I feel some aversion towards thinking about a particular about like alignment in general, then maybe I can sort of pull out some specific topics that I wanted to think about and basically don't feel that aversion at all and just think about them directly instead of first doing the step of conceiving about it as thinking about alignment. Now, maybe what is helpful here is to have a sort of document where I just collect all of the things that I could be thinking about in terms of alignment in very concrete terms. I already have like a document that lists all of the articles that I have and at what stage of completion they are, if they are drafts or stubs or just editing needs to be done if they're published. And it seems like I could probably just take a look at these. It might also make sense to order them after how hard they are to complete, or rather, how easy I expect it would be for me to get excited about any particular thing. Now, this seems sort of a roundabout way to fix the problem, because I'm not really addressing the underlying problem with any of these solutions here, that I feel sort of aversion to thinking about particular thoughts. And I guess this can be a problem in general, it doesn't need to be specific to AI alignment. And ideally, I would somehow remove this aversion completely. Now, I do think this is possible, and I think I have partly success with resolving this issue, but I didn't really make any progress since that one time. So basically, what happened once is I was visiting somebody, and they had the causality book on their shelf of Judea Pearl. And for some reason, I was also feeling aversion to like even looking at the book. I think because I was thinking, oh, this is an important topic you need to understand in order to make progress on AI alignment. And then I used the following strategy in order to remove the aversion that I had. I was basically just looking at it and enduring the feeling of aversion when I was looking at the book. So I was not trying to force myself to go there and pick up the book or something. I did only the very simple thing of like looking at the book, and then I was feeling, oh, there's some aversion, maybe look away again and look again at the book and sort of just repeat this. And each time I would look at the book, I would have Ia say something like really excited, like become really excited that I'd done this very simple thing. And that actually, this procedure made it such that the aversion gradually got less and less. And this happened really quickly. This was like basically, probably it was a minute or two until I was sort of feeling comfortable and I was feeling like, oh, I can pick up the book. So then I was basically going and picking up the book and was basically repeating this entire process. So like the end goal, of course, would be something like I have read the entire book. I have understood causality in the sense that Judea Pearl talks about it in the book. And I was sort of taking one step at a time, starting with I just look at the book, I just consider reading the book. And once I got comfortable with that sort of very basic step, I took the next step of picking up the book, looking at the book. And until I was comfortable with that, I opened the book, I read the introductory paragraph. And I managed to do all of that in like maybe 10 minutes. Going from I feel bad when just looking at the book, considering reading it, to actually starting to read it and not feeling bad. Now, this is only some limited evidence because I didn't actually read the book further. I only read like the first couple of pages, but this feels pretty significant progress. It's also worth noting that this progress didn't last. When I was trying to do the same thing a couple of months later, then I was backset and I felt more of the aversion again. So I think not quite as strong as initially. And so I expect that doing something like that, or maybe something completely different, can be done in order to address the underlying problem, which might be a thing that I should try to do in the long term. But I hope that doing this solution, or like this temporary solution or hack, that I would just think of concrete things such that I avoid the triggers that make the aversion arise, might already be helpful for increasing my productivity.